I am just getting started. So if you're joining me, welcome, welcome, welcome. I just jumped on a little started. I hopped on a little early just to make sure that the technology is working okay. And so if you are on chat with me, I want to make sure that I can see your comments. So just drop in, just say hello, 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 hello. Happy Wednesday. Somebody, if you're on, please put something in the chat box. I just want to make sure that I can see your chats. Cameron. Hello, Cameron. Can you do me a favor and write something in the chat box? I just want to make sure that I can see everybody's questions and comments before I get started. I really haven't started yet, although it is 7 o'clock. So I'm just checking in to make sure that the technology is working well and that you all can hear me clearly and that I can see your comments. So please, please, please. Oh, thank you. Brenda, my auntie Brenda is joining. Hello. Thank you, nephew, for the compliment. And so, yes, I can see the comments. And I'm excited that the technology is working. And so I'm very excited to be in this space. Thank you, Facebook user that said hello and you can hear me. That is awesome. Welcome, welcome, welcome. And so I'll give it a few minutes. I jumped on a little early to make sure that you all could hear me and that I can see your comments, which is very important because that is how you'll ask me questions. And so we have a lot to talk about tonight. And so I'm just so excited to be in this live space with you all. So I'll just give it a couple more minutes before we get started. We are going to do a bit of a grounding. And so I just want to make sure that I got some people here in the space before we ground. So welcome, welcome, welcome. Welcome. So please share this broadcast. Yes, share this broadcast. We are going to talk about crises. Yes, how to move beyond crises. A lot of us are experiencing so many mini crises as well as large scale crises, universal crises. And so I want to talk to you all tonight about how do we move beyond all of the shit. Yes, I'm going to use that word a lot. How do we move beyond all the shit that we've been experiencing here lately? Yeah, yes, we will meditate first. We sure will. Really, really briefly. as we're in this space, even though this is a virtual space, I consider it to be a sacred space. And I like to do a grounding so that we'll be able to listen with our hearts. Sometimes we stay in a headspace and we have been at work all day long. And so we're already still wired or trying to come down from being wired. And so our grounding meditation will help us get back into our bodies so we can really listen with our hearts, so we can ask the questions, get the insight that we need, the wisdom that we need from our hearts, and not our head, kind of get out of our head. And so as soon as a couple more people join us, I will get started. Oh, that's my auntie that said, will we meditate first? Yes, yes, Brenda, we will meditate first. I will guide you in a beautiful grounding. So, yes, Jessica, hello. I'm going to be looking up and down because on my restream, I'm not getting all the comments. And so I just saw that Jessica commented. Hello, my dear love, Roslyn. I don't know why the comments are not coming all the way through on my screen. So I guess I'll just have to keep checking. Hello, Cheryl. Cheryl joined. I missed your comment. Kimberly. Hello. Good evening. Good evening. So happy that you all are joining me in this space. Where are all of my comments? Oh, there they are. Some of them are a little delayed on my computer. So I'll be looking at my phone too and checking comments there. I may even, next time I'll just prompt it up. I'm going to prompt it up so I can see comments there too without, I hate to keep looking down, but I'm still here. One more minute. We'll start in one more minute. So if you are just joining me, thank you for sharing this sacred space with me. I have a lot in store for you this evening. And so I am so grateful that we're here in this space together. Again, what we're going to talk about tonight is how do we move beyond all of this crises thinking, these crises experiences that we're having, all of the traumas and dramas that seem to be cropping up so very frequently in our lives. Like, how do we move? What's on the other side of all of that? What's on the other side of these oh shit moments? And so we'll talk about that tonight. So I'm gonna start in like one more minute, see if anybody else has joined. And I know I'm gonna keep looking down to check comments. Welcome. I am so happy to be in this space. So I'm wondering if anybody is on YouTube. New comments. We have, okay, I like that. It's a bigger way that I can see comments. So anyway, let's go ahead and get started. And so again, I am extremely grateful that you are here with me, sharing this space. I know I'm looking back and forth in a lot of different directions, so forgive me for that, because again, all of the comments aren't coming through, and I want to make sure that I address your comments. And so welcome. As we begin, as I said before, we're going to start off with a grounding meditation. And so I just want to thank you all for joining me, before we get into the meditation. And again, if you are just joining us today, I want to talk to you about moving. Yes, moving beyond crises to evolution. Like what's on the other side of all of these crises, many crises, large crises that we're experiencing? What's on the other side of that? So before I begin, let me ask you all a question, a very serious question that I want you to reflect on. How many of you are exhausted from all of the many and large crises that are currently consuming your lives and or the lives of people that you love? You know, it just feels like right now everybody is going through something. So what do some of these crises sound like? It sounds like, oh shit, I'm sick. I got COVID. Like, oh shit, my kids are sick, my partner's sick, my mama's sick, my daddy's sick, everybody's sick. And if it's not COVID, then it's other stuff. It sounds like, oh shit, I cannot pay my bills. That rent is going up. The mortgage is going up. Gas prices are going up. Groceries are going up. Everything is ridiculously high right now. It sounds like, oh shit, my cousin, my friend, my partner, my favorite celebrity, my teacher just passed away. You know, how many of us are dealing with the death of so many loved ones? If Kimmy is still here, her and I were talking about that uh, the other week. Just the number of funerals, the number of people who are leaving here. You know, um, again, oh shit, my partner. You know, my partner is just giving me hell, giving me drama. My partner cheating on me again, and you know, I'm just tired of it. You know, so what else does it sound like? It sounds like what's going on in politics and the media. It sounds like, oh shit, they're trying to whitewash history in America by erasing the entire Black experience when history in America is already whitewashed. Okay, so like, yeah, it's a lot of shit going on right now. And so so many of us are filled with so much anxiety, and we find ourselves just like constantly bracing for the worst. So can you imagine like the type of havoc that feeling, that energy where you feel like you have to constantly brace for the worst? Can you imagine the havoc that wreaks on your mental state of being, your physical state of being, your spiritual state of being? You know, it becomes just a part of our everyday experience, and it's just not healthy. And so I have news for you. That constant state of fear, grief, worry, and anxiety is slowly, very slowly killing you from inside out. And so I want to talk about that more today, once we take some time to really reflect and ground together. So let me introduce myself. I'm Kimberly J, and I thank you all again for joining me. I'm a spiritual teacher, scholar, activist, a master healing practitioner, and the founder of the Journey to Wholeness Center. As I do all of that, I provide a sacred healing space, and it's equipped with tools and resources to empower you on your own unique journey to healing and wholeness. And I welcome you to wellness and wisdom. I always, this is like the biggest tongue twister, right? Wellness and wisdom Wednesdays. Ask Kimberly J. And I'm doing it here on a new platform. I'm doing it on YouTube Live and in my Facebook group. I started this conversation, and I call it a conversation. I started this last year in Clubhouse. And so we had some amazing dialogue, amazing conversations. And then I had a lot of people who wanted to join but couldn't because Clubhouse kind of limited the number of people who could join. And so I decided this year to go live on this platform. That way more people can, jump in, get the wisdom, get the information, ask whatever questions that they need to ask. And so we'll be here. I'll be here every Wednesday, and at 7. I think I had put on in my emails. If you are a client of Journey to Wholeness already and you got the emails, I think I put on there 7, but it's going to be 8 o'clock Central Standard Time, 7 o'clock Mountain Standard Time. Like, times are like really huge for me now since I have moved out and from Central Standard Time to Mountain Standard Time. So anyway, I digress. So I started this Clubhouse forum and this Wellness on Wednesday forum, as I said, a year ago, and so I'm just really excited to reprise it here in this space. So I'm really looking forward to our time together in this space. What you can expect every week is, first of all, we'll start off with a grounding meditation, because I am a firm believer of centering and grounding so that we can listen to whatever wisdom that comes through with our hearts. I really believe that we need to listen more with our hearts and less with our head. And so after we do the grounding meditation, really brief grounding meditation, I'll share with you some of my wisdom teachings, which could be in the form of spiritual downloads that I receive from spirit, from doing my work, from working with clients on a daily basis. It can be from my own personal lived experiences, current events, or I'll even at times share with you some of my research and some of the scholarship work that I do in the doctoral space. I'm currently a PhD student and candidate, working on my dissertation. So I'll share some of that research with you. My focus is on healing intergenerational trauma, and specifically in African American women, but I do study intergenerational trauma across the board through embodied spiritual practices. So once we have a little chat, I'll open up this space for you to ask me anything that is on your heart as it pertains to your own health and wellness, evolution, your growth, your partnerships, your relationships, career, money, if you have a big move that you're contemplating, what's going on with your energy, etc. As an intuitive, I often receive messages directly from spirit that can provide deeper wisdom and insight to whatever it is that you're going through or experiencing. So please, please, please feel free to put your questions in the chat box. I will try to address them live. And if I don't address them live as I go back, I'll address them in the comments after the broadcast. So I'm so excited. Y'all could tell like my energy is on 1,000. I'm so excited to be in this space. So let's get started. I've been keep talking about this grounding meditation. So let's do it. And so I'll just share a couple of words on meditation before we start. And so meditation really is not about, there's this belief that meditation is about silencing the mind and about going to these other dimensions and all of this, but no, meditation is just truly purely about grounding, about centering, about being still, about listening. Yeah, listening to spirit. Spirit has a lot to say. And the only way that we can hear it is in that stillness. And so that's why it's important to meditate, even if it's for 5 or 10 minutes a day, so we can be discerning, so we can listen, so we can hear with our hearts again, hear with our hearts. And so it is not like this huge, like, pomp and circumstance. I heard people say, I can't meditate because my mind keeps going. Your mind is supposed to keep going. That's what your mind does. So it's all about drawing awareness to what's going on in your head and then dropping back into your body. And the way that you do that is through your breath. So whenever you're in that place of stillness and you find it hard to shut off the chatter, allow the chatter to go. And then if you allow that chatter to have its moment, you'll be able to remind yourself to come back to your breath. And when you come back to your breath, everything begins to quiet. It begins to settle down. The breath settles the body. And we don't do enough to really cultivate our breathing. And so meditation helps with that. It helps us draw awareness to the breath. And so, with that said, let's get started. So, I invite you to find a comfortable position. It could be laying down, it could be sitting down, whatever is comfortable for you will work. And once you find that comfortable position, I invite you to close your eyes. Really just allow yourself to just settle into your body. We don't spend enough time in our body. We spend so much time in our head. We're always thinking, we're always moving, we're always going, we're always doing blah, 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 blah. That's where all that damn chatter comes from, because we can't be still. And so be intentional about being still. So in this moment, we're going to be intentional. We're just going to sit for a moment. We're going to feel into our body. So just drop down into your body by following your breath. No need to manipulate the breath right now. Just pay attention to your normal rhythm, the normal ebb and flow of your breath. Allowing it to soften your body. And as you begin to draw your awareness to your breath, allow yourself to feel whatever sensations your body wants to explore. If you feel any tension, any stress, any anxiety, just allow your breath to ease those sensations. And now I invite you to take a deep breath in, breathing from your belly, bringing it to your heart, holding it, and then softly exhaling it out. Take another deep breath in from the belly. Bring it into the heart. And then softly exhale it out. Now take one more deep breath in from the belly, bringing it into the heart. And then exhaling it out. As you draw your awareness back into your body, visualize a beautiful spiraling light. This light is coming into the top of your head, and it travels through your body, coming in, going through your torso, your hips, your legs, coming out the bottoms of your feet, going into Mother Earth as far and as deep as you can envision the core of Mother Earth as being. Once you have arrived, notice Whatever colors you may feel, see, or sense, as these colors, they carry a vibration, an energy of healing, that of which you need in this moment. Asking Mother Earth's permission, integrate those colors into your light. And then follow that light as now it begins to travel up from the core through the bottoms of your feet, your legs, your torso, coming up and out the way it came in, through the top of your head. And now follow this light as now it travels to whatever you can envision, your star planet, your star as being. In this moment, you are fully grounded. You are rooted, tethered between heaven and earth, open, ready, and available to receive that which is in your highest and greatest good, and the highest and greatest good of everyone connected to you. Take another deep breath in from the belly. Hold it in your heart. Softly exhaling it out. And so it is. I invite you now to begin to very gently and very compassionately make your way back into your body. Just take a moment to reflect on your experience and how it felt for you to actually and intentionally ground. Reflect on the colors that you saw, because again, those colors have meaning. Everybody in this space saw and experienced something different. And so those colors, as I said, those are colors that carry healing energy. They carry a vibration. They mean a thing. And so if you want to know what, some insight on some of your colors or what you experienced, go ahead and just throw those questions in the chat box. I will get to them momentarily. But yeah, everything that you experience, it means a thing. And so if you want to talk about it or chat about it, go ahead and put it in the chat box. And so I really hope that grounding helped you really get back into your body and to, again, be able to listen with your heart. And so I want to talk to you about moving beyond crises to evolution. So a few weeks ago, I was reading this quote from this book that I highly, highly recommend. And I'm always going to be on here talking about books. I do a lot of reading as a professional researcher. I do a lot of reading. And so this book that I read is by Dr. Bruce Lipton, and it's called The Biology of Belief, a very, very powerful book, must read. So one of the things that he said in the book is that crises precipitates evolution. And so, in other words, because when I gave this quote to my son, my I think it was Christian, either Christian or Kevin, and they were like, "Well, what's precipitates? Like what does that mean?" And so you could think about it this way: that crises, evolution, transformation is all birthed from crises. So sometimes when we're in crisis situations, that's what challenges us or pushes us to go beyond our comfort zone. It pushes us to do the work that is necessary to heal or to get back in balance or to course correct. And so sometimes we need that jolt, that push, to say, okay, wait a minute, I'm off balance. I need to get back in balance. I'm not living my life in a harmonious way. I need harmony. I need peace. I need wellness. My body needs healing. You know, I'm not well mentally. I'm not well emotionally. And so the things that tend to trigger us are things that we call crises, both small and large. We could talk about all that's going on in the world right now. The whole world is in a state of crises. But what is causing us to do is to reinvent the way we engage with ourselves, the way that we engage with society, the way that we engage with education, the way that we engage with a lot of these systems of oppression. All of these things are causing us to pause, to stop, to reevaluate, to restore, to reimagine, you know. And so that is, but you have to have the wherewithal to know that it's time for me to go beyond this particular crisis so I can find the wisdom, the healing, the growth, and the evolution that resides on the other side. So when I read that quote, it made me reflect on the many, many crises that I have encountered personally over the last few years and the ways that they have challenged me to grow or how I've been transformed on the other side of those experiences. So the key is to not stay attached to the crisis experience, but to actively seek the wisdom, the healing, and the transformation that the crisis is offering you again on the other side. So when we stay tethered to the actual crises, it could either immobilize us or cause us to just stay stuck, to stay stagnant in the story of the experience. Or we can choose to allow the crisis to liberate us, to cause us to again reinvent, recreate, reimagine, choose a new path forward. So, take for example, I'll use for example health crises, because I think health crises are pretty much for most people like the number one wake up call. So many of you may be experiencing what I call like mini health crises, which could be things like depression, anxiety. COVID is a health crisis, chronic fatigue, or perhaps even insomnia. A lot of people don't consider not being able to sleep a health crisis, and it is. It's a crisis because the body has to restore. But if the body is not in a position where it can get some sleep and to restore, it definitely leads to larger health crises. It can lead to diabetes, cancer, chronic fatigue, stress, mental health issues. And that's just to name a few, because the body is really imbalanced. So we're dealing with a lot of health crises. And sometimes when we're experiencing these crises, we stay stuck in the story of the crises. So, what do I mean by that? What do I mean by staying stuck in the story of the crises? What did I do to deserve this? It's always something going on. I'm always dealing with this. How did I catch for COVID, for us people who didn't have COVID? How did I get it? Why me? How did I get it? I was so careful. How did I get sick? Why can't I sleep? Why does shit like this always happen to me? Am I gonna die? Am I gonna, am I going to be infected? So the whole COVID thing that's really brought about this hyper sensitivity to being in a story, being in a crisis centered story. So when we stay stuck in the story of the crises, it actually becomes immobilizing, it becomes debilitating. Why do I have this chronic pain? Why do I have diabetes? How in the world did I get heart disease? Like, what is going on? And then we begin to spiral. We spiral and we waste time and energy on the crises and not the motivation and the drive to actually heal. Healing requires work. Healing is hard, or we decide we want to go an easier route and pop a pill, which is really, it just takes care of the symptoms. It's not really healing, what's going on with us. And so healing requires work, it requires energy, it requires patience, it requires trust. It requires you to first courageously surrender to what's happening with your mental, physical, spiritual well-being in the present moment. What's happening? And this is without judgment of yourself, without I should have, I could have, I know I shouldn't have ate this, I know I shouldn't have done this, I know I shouldn't have been around this person or that person. So it's without making yourself, being present, being courageously present, without making yourself a victim. Or saying or blaming other, he, she, they, them gave me COVID. This job is causing me stress or anxiety. This, but without the blame, the immediate blame game. So healing requires you to morph, to grow, to evolve, to shift. Yes, to shift, to change, and be insightful about knowing what your body needs to create a harmonious environment for you to heal. And that's work. That's hard work. Not only is it work, it's hard work. So every crisis we encounter on any level, on a personal level, on a communal level, a familial level, societal level, universal level, the crisis that we see in the world and the planet today, all crises challenge us to get in alignment with our innate power to heal. And once we're in alignment with our innate power to heal, we become more in alignment with our ability to birth the experiences that we want to have. To birth the joy that we want to have, to birth the peace, the harmony, the abundance, the prosperity, the good health. All of those things are birthed out of the work that we do to restore our bodies and to correct the imbalances that we're experiencing just as a result of living. And so this is how we begin to move beyond a crisis-centered perspective to what I call or what I subscribe to is transformation and evolution. So with that said, I want to just pause here and open the space up for any thoughts or questions that you have. Like, how has your week been going? What is it that is on your mind? Let's chat. I'll see if I can get the the chats on my live stream screen. Nope, because I can't see the names, and so I'll be looking down at the phone. And so go ahead, type away whatever it is whatever question you have. So someone, and I again on my screen, I see a couple of questions. Tana, welcome. The deaths are overwhelming. Yes, it is overwhelming. And the thing about, and I do want to speak to that because it is overwhelming, but it is also, and that's a huge crisis. It's a huge crisis. But what is it? What's on the other side? So I talked about going beyond. So what's on the other side of it is the fact that this society, this culture, Westernized society in particular, we don't have a healthy relationship with death. And what do I mean by that? I know some people are like, how do you have a relationship with death? What do I mean by that? Death is a part of life, period. So at some point, all of us are going to make that transition when our work here is done. And if we spend more time focusing on the work at hand, why are we here? What is our purpose? How do we be in alignment with our purpose, with our passion, with our truth? How do we live? We spend so much time focused on death that we are not living. And so understanding and being in relationship with death, you begin to understand that there is no real death, that it is a part of life, and that it is also a form of rebirth. And so being in a place of honoring that individual's journey and the closing or the transitioning of their journey is so very critical. So is there grief? Absolutely there's grief. There's grief, there's heartbreak, there is like, oh my God, and there's fear. Fear about our own mortality. But again, when we don't have these conversations, when we don't have a healthy relationship with the ritual and the process of death, it can be so overwhelming. Can be so overwhelming. Again, immobilizing, debilitating. And so it's very, very important that we honor death as being a sacred part of life. It is very important that we honor our grief around death by talking about it, by taking time off. This is also a culture or a society that does not even allow space for grief. So we're unfamiliar with grief because all we know to do is to press it down and get back to work, to press it down and get on with our lives, to press it down and don't talk about it. you know so there are so many healthy ways that we can begin to be in relationship in terms of building ancestor altars, in terms of connecting with our ancestors, in terms of honoring our loved ones as they make that transition. There are so many healthy ways to still be in relationship with our loved ones as they move on, as they transition. It is not final. But here in this culture, in the society, again, it's just so, everything is so final, it's so finite, and we don't understand death as being a part of our life cycle. We don't even really talk about, life cycles, or that part. Nobody wants to talk about it. And so now we don't have a choice because we're being confronted with it on a regular basis. We're being confronted with our own mortality on a regular basis. And so it is asking us. So what is on the other side of that? It is asking us, how do we begin to be in a relationship with a very what we have created to be like a very like sinister part of life, or a very dismal part of life. Like, nobody wants to die, nobody wants to die, nobody wants to die. Yeah, nobody wants to die, but you can't live your life focused on death and dying. you know it's a part of the process. you know um and so, yeah, it is requiring us to really be able to even move beyond that ideology of, you know, that's the end, that's it. It's requiring us to become more intimate and more understanding towards the truth about our ancestors, and how do we involve and how do we engage in that type of space and in that type of energy. And so, yes, Tana, yes, it is overwhelming. And in it being overwhelming, it is also asking for us to give ourselves again what we need to honor the grieving process. I think that is so very, very important, is that we are so busy rushing to the next thing that we are not honoring, truly, truly honoring the grieving process as well. Okay. Questions? Any more questions? I hate that I'm not getting all of the feedback. I'll look at the phone. Greetings, Vashonda. Vashonda says yes. Hello, Crystal. My sister Crystal is on. Hey. Questions, questions. So how is your week going? What's pressing on your heart? Y'all talk to me. What do you want to know about your particular experience? Any more questions? Any more thoughts? Do anybody have anything that they want to ask about your meditation, about your grounding meditation? How did that go for you? What colors did you see, or how was that experience for you? And checking for comments, comments, comments. And I'm not sure if I am getting any comments from YouTube. I will. I think all of my comments are coming through from Facebook. People on my job. Who is that? Brenda. Yes. People on my job are leaving, and I'm trying not to focus on the negative. Yes. 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 These jobs are creating a lot of these jobs, and I don't know about your job, but I do know what's happening is that a lot of the environments on a lot of these jobs are starting to become so toxic, and people are really, really, they're tired. They can't deal with it. Coping mentally, again, people are in crises mode, and they got so many things going on. And so for you in particular, like Spirit is giving me a message for you in particular, it's so very, very important, Brenda, that you begin to shield your energy as you're coming into that space. Because I'm sensing that the reason that people are leaving is because that environment can sometimes be very, very toxic. And if that is a place that you want to stay, or you feel like you can thrive there, it's going to be so important for you to shield your energy as you're coming into that space. Because the space is toxic. It's a lot of negative energy there. And so it's hard not to focus on the negative when the environment in itself it can be toxic at times. And so that's why people people are leaving. Yeah. And so I see I'm a slow. Oh, Kira, welcome, welcome. Dealing with stress. And so dealing with stress, let me tell you something about stress. Stress doesn't just happen. Okay. Um, it has to be actively and intentionally dealt with. So dealing with it, you have to intentionally address it. A lot of times we put ourselves in stressful situations, stressful environments, and not intentionally. Work itself, we got to go to work, we got to pay the bills, and it is stressful. So how do we intentionally shield ourselves or de-stress, be able to de-stress? And so it is very important that, number one, you take stress seriously, because it does directly affect your health. Number two, begin to incorporate rituals into your space and begin to incorporate things into your life where you are intentional about your self care, where you are intentional about taking breaks, where you are intentional about giving yourself what it is that you need. Because stress is something, none of us can just live stress free lives. Stress is around us at all times, but we can do our part to consciously and intentionally um, shield ourselves, energetically shield ourselves, decouple from stressful situations, take breaks. That's the one thing that I learned a little bit too. I don't want to say it's too late, but I learned midway through motherhood is that I had to take my breaks. If that, and what did that look like? Sometimes it would look like, hey, Ma, can you keep the boys? I'm going to a hotel room where I'm ordering room service. I'm going to do some yoga. I'm going to sleep. I'm going to watch TV. So whatever that is for you, you must do it, and you must be unapologetic about doing it, because as mothers, we feel like we always have to be on point. We always, we don't have any space for ourselves. And you don't. If you don't give it to yourself, nobody is going to say, oh, okay, yeah, Mom, you need some space. Yeah, I'm going to leave you alone for a weekend. So you have to be very intentional about giving yourself what it is that you need. Just really important. So many homeless people. I'm going to see who said that. Yes, Brenda. Oh my gosh. Brenda, it is so many homeless people. And I'm going to share with you an experience that I had. And so my graduate school is in San Francisco, California. So for years, I have been traveling back and forth to San Francisco, and the homeless problem there is just, as you said, depressing. It's heartbreaking, um, and I'm sure it's just getting worse by the day, because it's now popping up in all cities where the homelessness population is becoming massive. And that speaks volumes to the miscare, the mismanagement of our leadership, of our governments. But that's for another whole talk. But how do you deal with that energy? And so, because I am very energetically sensitive, when I would go there, literally walking down the street, I would just be in tears. It broke me down. It broke my heart. It broke me down. I hated going to San Francisco because I just could not, it just was overwhelming. It was overwhelming. And so for me, what Spirit told me was that it was so very important for me to send them love, to send them energy, to send them healing, um, to set intentions for them to find a home and to find a space, and to create a space in my heart to send that. So that was very important. So as I started walking down the street and I would see homeless people, I would just intentionally just send them love and send them energy. And so depression is a serious mental health um, issue. Is very, very serious. And a lot of times, nobody wants to talk about depression. They don't want to talk about it. They can't even, a lot of times, people don't even recognize the signs of depression. They just call it living. And so, depression, I think about depression as a serious depression of your energy. Sometimes people, all they do is go to work, if they can go to work. They go to work, they come home, and they're done. They're done with life, period. They are checked out until it's time to get up and go to work again. And they think that's normal, that is what people are. No, that is a sign of depression. And so first we have to be able to recognize the signs of depression to be able to be like, hey, I think I'm depressed. And then we have to be proactive about going about getting the help, not stigmatizing it, but going about getting the help that we need. And so we need more mental health professionals who really focus on cultural counseling, because a Black person's depression is it looks and feel very different. You know, it may not fit the clinical mode of depression, because we deal with so much racial tension and stress and drama and traumas that we just suppress, that we just deal with it. Why? Because we still got to pay the bills, we still got to go to work, we still got to do this, we still got to do that. And so it's so very important that we get the help that we need. First, we recognize and we identify that that's not normal. You know, we have to stop normalizing stress, normalizing depression, normalizing anxiety as just part of living, you know. And so we have to be aware and conscious that that is going on. And then we have to go and get the help and the resources that we need. So, a question: how do you send energy? And so, the way that you send energy is through intention. It's through intention. And so if you have a loved one, and I do this a lot, if you have a loved one that is having an experience that you feel helpless about being able to help them, you feel helpless, you've tried to talk to them and they won't listen, and you've tried to do all that you can do, all that you can do, not all, like it's not anything, but you can send them energy. How do you do that? You go to a quiet space, you drop down into your heart, you begin to visualize that individual, and then you surround them. You can visualize them in the middle of a circle, and you surround them with love. You can send them energy by saying positive affirmations around them. I wish you well. I wish you healing. I wish you peace. I wish you prosperity. During your meditation practice, if you cultivate a regular meditative practice, you can bring them into that meditation and intentionally send them energy. And so there are a lot of ways that you can energetically connect with people at a higher level, and that is most times more effective than trying to reason, than trying to talk to them, especially when they're deep in their illness or in their depression or in their anxiety, or in that space that you can't reach them through words or through communication. Sending them energy is very, very powerful. I'm an energy healer, and so as an energy healer, I truly, truly know, I do this every day. I know the power of being able to energetically send energy to somebody to help restore their mind, their body, and their spirit. And so, and you can do that without even being a trained professional energy healer. You have the power and the capacity to do that for others, and to do it for yourself, putting yourself in the middle of that circle as well. I see another question. Hey, Jania. How are you, my love? I have people on my job. Oh, Crystal. Finding ways to get more sleep to be ready for the day. And so sleep, as I said earlier in the broadcast, like sleep is so very critical because the body cannot restore, the body cannot heal, the body cannot do what it needs to do if you are not getting enough sleep. I cannot stress that enough. As I said before, I'm an energy healer. And as an energy healer, when I am channeling life force energy, when I'm channeling energy to people, the number one thing that I feel, the dissonance that I feel, is when people are not getting enough sleep, believe it or not, because it creates so many imbalances in your body. And so, your question, ways to get more sleep. So, first of all, you have to be able to release whatever it is that is going on, mental, emotional, or physical, with your body. So that's one thing. You have to get to the root cause of really what's keeping you from being able to rest at night. I had a very profound teacher back in the day, not back in the day, a couple of years ago. I make it sound like it was so long ago. Kimberly Harmon, who is a dream expert in interpreters. One time she told me that when people are not sleeping or can't sleep, it means that the spirit, so when you are able to sleep, your spirit actually goes to a place of restoration. It goes on, you could call it the other side or spirit realm, and it receives downloads. It just keeps doing what it does, and then the body is able to sleep and rest and restore, right? But she said that, and it's really stuck with me, is that when you don't sleep or you can't sleep, it's because your spirit is too busy trying to keep your body alive, you know? And so the spirit won't leave because it may not come back. And I'm just like, oh, when she said that. But I believe there's some truth to that. And so you got to get to the root of what's going on with the physical body in order for the spirit to be able to get into that sleep mode, into that sleep dream state. So that's one thing. The second thing is that you have to be very intentional about sleeping. And what I mean by intentional about sleeping is you may even want to create what I call like a sleep ritual, where you can have a routine every night before you go to bed. I'm going to do this, I'm going to do that. You're going to, get prepare your space, prepare your space. Say a prayer or do a meditation to set your intention. Again, intentionality. Set your intention for a peaceful night's sleep. Yes, food affects your energy. It absolutely affects food. Not only does food affect your energy, food is energy. That is your energy. That is your life force. And so paying attention to what you eat, not eating heavy foods, because again, heavy foods, it makes your energy, a lot of meat, a lot of cheeses, a lot of dense food makes your energy dense. It makes your body dense. And so, yeah, getting back to the sleep, creating a sleep ritual, getting to the root cause of what's going on with your body health wise, where it just cannot relax, at night. And then getting help, seeing somebody, seeing an integrative specialist or an intuitive healer, talk, so they can go a little bit deeper in terms of why you are energetically, because it's an energetic issue just as well as it's a physical issue, so getting to the root of why your energy is so imbalanced that you cannot get the sleep that you need. Somebody, I'm gonna look. I'm looking at my feed to see who said something about food. Oh, Brenda, yes, food, definitely, food affects your energy. Um, because food is energy. Food is energy. And so we also have to be very mindful about what we're putting in our bodies. Be mindful about what you're putting in your body. Be mindful about what you're putting into your mental space. Be mindful about what's going on with your physical body. Are you getting enough exercise? Are you walking? Are you getting new life force energy into your body so you can be healthy, be balanced, sleep well, etc. And so it's all about being very intentional. Any other questions? Did anybody else join me? And so I want to figure out how I see this on my screen. I feel like I'm being rude by looking down at my phone. So, any other thoughts, questions? Did anybody want to talk about the meditation? Did anybody do the meditation? Um, and then did anybody else have any insights or any questions? Okay. Well, I have enjoyed um, being in this space with you all. And if anything else comes up, if you have any other questions, then you can go ahead and put comments out there after the fact, and I will answer them. And so as I review the broadcast, I'll address some of your comments or questions, or if you want to email me privately about whatever it is that you're experiencing and going through, we can, definitely continue this conversation offline. And so, as we close out this live, this first of many, and I'm so excited about it, I invite you to begin to really think about ways in which you can actively move beyond crises mode by understanding the gift, the invitation that the crisis is presenting to you to heal, to evolve, to grow, and to be in alignment with your passion and with your purpose, with the work that you need to do while you're here on this earth. So everybody here on this earth has work to do, you know so life is about experiences. It's about doing the work. It's about healing. It's about wholeness. It's about wellness. So there's so many aspects to living that, and unfortunately we spend so much time focused on our crises, our traumas, our dramas. And so I do realize, I don't want to minimize any of this. I do realize that this work is complex, and most times we don't even know where to begin. And so that's one of the reasons why I want to open up this space and open up this forum, so you can see me as a resource, as a guide to help you in any way that I possibly can. That's my work. That's my work here on earth. And so that's why it's just so important that we get the help that we need, and that there is no shame and not knowing where to begin, not knowing what tools that we need. There are so many professionals out there to help you. The only thing is that we don't even ask for what we need, because we don't even know what we need you know and so it's so important that we consciously and intentionally seek out the tools, the resources, and the assistance to help you navigate your own personal journey to healing and wholeness. And your journey is like nobody else's. It is unique. It is unique to your own lived experiences. It is unique to the lessons that you have to learn in this lifetime. It is unique to what it is that you need to create for yourself, for your family, for your community, for the world at large. So again, if you want to continue this discussion, or something I talked about resonated or was triggered, and you want to gain more clarity or more guidance, I have so many avenues that we can continue this discussion, or you can continue to seek out the help that you need. First of all, if you want to join me again in community, on every first and third Sunday, I have a healing circle where we get together in community and we dive deeper. We go even deeper into a host of tools and resources that are needed for healing and empowerment. I do more guided meditations. So I really teach people how to be able to go within and to be able to acknowledge and recognize root cause of what's going on. And so if you're interested in joining our healing circles, you can check out my website. I'll put it in the comments. And if a group setting doesn't appeal to you at all, I do offer one-on-one intuitive healing and spiritual life coaching sessions where we can talk more specifically about any personal situation that you're facing, any personal crises that you're facing. And so, again, I will put in the comments my email address if you are interested in a one-on-one session. So again, I thank you. I thank you for sharing this space with me this evening. And I send you all love and blessings. And if you have gotten anything from this content and you want more of it, please join the Facebook group or my YouTube channel. I have to see if this broadcasted to YouTube. So if anybody out there is watching it on the YouTube channel, then just put that in the comments. Just let me know that you're watching it from the YouTube channel, and I'll check it out later to see if it actually broadcasted on YouTube. And so my YouTube channel is Kimberly J Spiritual Teacher. And so I'll add the link. Sorry, I'm so thirsty. I'll add the link in the comments to the YouTube channel as well. And so I will see you all next week. Thank you again. I'm wishing you all a very well week. Sending love and blessings. Thank you.